So anyway, our week-long look at the nation's first four presidents continues this morning with Thomas Jefferson. Let's bring in acclaimed writer and journalist Tom Ricks. He's with us again. His new book, First Principles, What America's Founders Learned from the Greeks and the Romans and How That Shaped Our Country. Also with us, Pulitzer Prize-winning historian and professor at Harvard, Annette Gordon-Reed. Also, Mike Barnicle is back with us as well. And Tom, you had written in your introduction that your family and you grew up revering Thomas Jefferson. Same with me. Obviously, he's undergone a very, very harsh reassessment over the past 20 to 30 years. And I must say, after reading your book, Jefferson's words are extraordinary. They have moved the march of freedom along in ways that few other political philosophers ever have in the history of man and womankind. But at the same time, they are connected to a man who was abhorrent at best at times.
A deeply flawed man, a great man, but a deeply flawed man. You mentioned the harsh reassessment of Jefferson. I've got to say what an honor it is to be on with the person who has led that reassessment, Annette Gordon-Reed. I think this is the first time in a long time that my family has actually been impressed that, you know, you're going to be on TV with Annette Gordon-Reed. I mean, she's a rock star in our family. Our daughter once walked into a Starbucks in Philadelphia and saw Annette Gordon-Reed and nearly dropped her latte. She was so excited. I actually have right here the battered family copy of her great book, which everybody in our family has read and written notes all over. So Thomas Jefferson, I would say incredibly important, and if only for the Declaration of Independence, a great document, both great literature and a great political document. That said, three things that really bothered me about him and led me to really reassess my opinion of him in my research. First, he was a lousy governor of Virginia. He was asleep at the wheel during the Revolution, winds up getting chased out of Monticello by British troops, riding up Carter Mountain behind it. Second, he's kind of a hypocrite about the country. He wants to have the West explored, yet he himself never goes west of the Blue Ridge. It's not that he doesn't like to travel. When he lives in France, he travels all over. And third, and most of all, worst of all, on slavery. Now, I wanted to defer to the expert here, but my opinion is he was at best a hypocrite, a man who dreamed of liberty while living on the sweat of others, a man who talked a good game when he was in Paris, but towed the slavery power line when he was back in Virginia.
Professor, talk about that, the contrast of Jefferson, the political philosopher whose words were used not only by MLK in letters from a Birmingham jail, but also by Frederick Douglass. And those words have been used time and again as both sword and shield to move forward civil rights in this country. And yet his own personal story was so deplorable on that front.
Well, I thank you first. It's good to be here. And Tom, thank you for those wonderful words. I guess I would start by asking, well, what more do you want from a person? I mean, you began with a statement about his words, moving mankind, bringing things forward. That's a pretty good thing to do. The personal issues are important, but for me, historical figures are about how they move the actions they take that live on and that move us forward. As you said, yes, he was a slave owner and he wrote some of the most condemning words about slavery that have ever been written, but he did not live up to it on his own, in his own life. So I guess you have to think about what his historical figures are about. What use are they? A good person who's ineffectual and feckless? The governor, the militia didn't come out when he called them. He was up at Monticello. Tartan's troops are coming. He's supposed to defend himself by himself. Patrick Henry ran. They all ran. So no, it wasn't a great show, but I think you have to think about, for me, the bigger picture of this and what historical figures are useful for. The Declaration of Independence has been used by every group in this country to move to blacks, women, gays, you name it, immigrants all over the world. And so that measured against his personal weaknesses, to my mind, the ratio doesn't work for, it works for me. I think that's what we should be focusing on. History is not about worshiping people. It's about seeing the practical things that people did to move us forward.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.